This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work, responding to a question from a supporter in our Patreon community. And his name is Liam Love, and he has sent in a question which I really enjoy and thank him for. The question is, how rigged is the stock market against working people? My first reaction was that famous Browning poem, how many ways do I love thee? Let me count the ways. How many ways is the stock market rigged against working people? Well, let's count, because there are many. First of all, about 10% of our people own 80% of the stocks. So in point of fact, the vast majority of Americans are either without any participation in the stock market or without a meaningful one. In other words, what happens in the stock market does not significantly affect their income, their standard of living, or anything else. So think of it as a playground for the top 10%, because that's really what it is. Number two, what it means to own a share of stock is to participate in the profit side of the economy. You know, as a working person, you participate in doing the work and you get a wage or a salary. But if you buy a share of stock, you don't do anything. You own something, and you own a piece of the profits generated by a company, directly or indirectly. So what it does is it makes you a participant in the employer side of the economy, which is the small minority that runs everything, not the majority that does most of the work. But let me get into the weeds a little bit more. The 10% who own all these stocks are, of course, our richest people. And they are in a position, through their donations and their family connections and all the rest, to have a disproportionate influence on the government's policy. That's why, for example, over the last 30 years, wages have been stagnant in the United States. In other words, if your money wage went up, the prices went up about the same. But not in the stock market, where the prices went up much, much, much faster than the price of goods and services. So if you participate in the stock market, the system was rigged to help that part of the wealth go up, whereas the part that most people rely on, wages and salaries, didn't go up. You get the picture? Let me continue. In order to know what stock to buy, if you're even able to play in the stock market, you need to have some idea of what's going on. Is a company doing well? Is it not doing well? Well, here's a problem in a private capitalist system. They don't have to tell you. Every major corporation keeps at least two sets of books, one for the public and one so the people who run the corporation know what's going on. Mr. Trump is in trouble these days because the authorities in New York have discovered that he gave one set of statistics to the people he borrowed from, another set of statistics to the people he hired, yet another set of statistics. You see the picture? If you're not a rich, well-off person who can hire professional researchers, you have no real way of knowing what's going on in a corporation. The big brokerage houses, the big advisors with their expensive costs, they send people to the company. They let the company know, you better tell us what's going on, because if we get an idea that you're diddling the numbers to us, we'll never do business with you again. We won't bring you the investors. We won't sell your stock. Oh, so if you're well connected and you're rich already, then other rich people have to treat you differently. That's how the market is rigged, even between the richest who play in it and the rest of them. Yeah, it's a system that is set up to serve the richest people, as so much in capitalism always has been. You know, the way to think about a rigged stock market is a little bit the way people once thought about slavery. Stop trying to make it a little better, a little worse. You know, yeah, the slave could be fed better, treated better, housed better, clothed better. Or You could say, look, even if the slave gets something extra for a while, even if the shareholders get something in the way of a reform, it can be taken away, it can be removed, it can be hidden because of the way the thing is set up. The solution then to slavery was abolish it. And the solution to a rigged stock market is the same. The 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution outlaws slavery. Maybe a future one will outlaw a system in which a tiny minority of people can gather the bulk of the profits we all help produce into their own hands. The stock market is a mechanism for doing that, and that alone should dictate that we can and should do better. If interventions like this, having to do with something as important as the stock market, seem to you something that ought to be part of the national conversation, that ought to be understood and dealt with by people, then please partner with us. Help us get these kinds of ideas out there into the land of your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, your co-workers. That extends our reach. That's a kind of partnership with us that we invite you to do. And of course, if you can help financially to defray the costs of all this we do, that would be appreciated as well. Thank you.